thank you guys for coming to the talk. My name is today's presenter is Chris Limke. He is going to tell you about Vagrant, and it's not what you think it is. Apparently, I had some completely different understanding of what I looked and saw, but now I'm ready to use it. Just so you're aware, AT&T. Sorry, it says Town Hall Events. It's a redirect. You just go to techtalk.attntinteractive.com. It redirects you to this sort of longer URL that you get all the information as well as the podcast of this presentation and others, and the upcoming ones that are what we have set scheduled. And if you would like to yourself do a tech talk, talk to me or Manny to Dan, and we can work together getting you set up and everything. And love to have you guys participate and sort of impart your specialty knowledge onto everybody else. So without any further ado, thank you. Hi everybody, my name is Chris Limke, and I'm here today to talk to you about Vagrant. Life is good. Thank you for coming. So what is Vagrant? Vagrant is a virtual machine, or VM, that runs locally within your computer. Simply put, it's a way to run Unix within your Windows or your Mac or your Unix box, but to have it isolated from the rest of your computer. What's different is Vagrant lets you use a shared file space, and it lets you manage your VMs in a pretty convenient way. So without further ado, let me give you a demonstration of typical work with it. Okay, so we'll show that I have my my Vagrant folder right here. I have the workspace here, and I have a Vagrant folder where I have everything installed. You'll see inside that Vagrant folder is a Vagrant file configuration, and then these two folders are actually links to shared file space outside under workspace/demo, workspace/buzz. So they exist on the Mac side. Okay, so let's boot up Vagrant. You'll see it's forwarding some ports, and it sets up this shared disk space right here. This is a key part. So I set up a folder called Demo. There's going to be a demo app on my Mac. It's also going to exist within the Unix, but it's going to share the file space. All right, so let's log in with a Vagrant SSH, and you'll see here that now we are within the Unix environment. This is the Unix. I'm running CentOS, and this is the Unix file system right here. So we're going to go to cd/vagrant, and in here there's going to be a demo folder. We cd demo. We see we have a skeleton Rails app right here. Now this is running the same code that this TextMate over here is reading. So if we change this file, this is the new README, and we save it, and we print out the README here. It says this is the new README right there. Let's do something a little more fun. Let's start up our Rails server. And then over here, we will go to a basic demo. Let's start it up a couple times. That Rails server start. There we go. And we see some basic text. Now we can go over here to the demo controller. And let's change the text to something new. And you see the changes show up. So the idea is very simple. You're going to use the Mac or Windows or whatever environment you use as you normally develop, but you get to run your app and your tasks inside the Unix environment. So again, code editing in the Mac, code running in the Unix environment. Right, so that's basically what Vagrant is. Now let me convince you to use it. Why should you use Vagrant? 3 reasons. It's easy to use, you can standardize your environment, and you can share your success very well. Easy to use. It's easy to set up. It is really, really easy to set up. This is the #1 reason to use Vagrant.
It takes 3 steps to do it. You install Oracle VirtualBox, you download your choice Vagrant package file, and then you run a 6-line script. This whole process takes about 10 minutes, and once you're done, your entire development environment is set up. You have your gems installed, your yums installed, your database environment installed, your configs, your T packages. That's right, you can run T package on this. What would normally take days, if not weeks of time to set up your development environment takes literally 10 to 20 minutes at most. So that's definitely the best part of Vagrant. The next part of Vagrant is standardize your environment. So you can have the same environment locally that you do in production. The VM box that I supply on our wiki has CentOS 5.5, which is pretty similar to what we run on our production VMs. We run CentOS 5.4 through 5.7. So you can run your code in the same environment that you would natively run your code in production. So you don't have to worry about dealing with issues that you only deal with in development, and you can deal with all the issues you would deal in production before you get to your deploy. The next reason is you have no dependency conflicts. So if you have one project that requires MySQL 5 and one project that requires MySQL 4, you don't need to worry about it. You can have MySQL 5 installed on one VM, and you can have another VM that has MySQL 4 installed and switch between which one you need to use at any time. Platform independent. This actually executes what Java claims much better than they do. You can build once, run anywhere. Since you built your code on CentOS and it's all running on CentOS, you can take your box and run it on a Windows environment, on a Mac environment, on a Linux environment, on whatever you want, and it's all running in the same environment because you're using a VM. Last but not least, no forced updates. Nobody's ever going to force you to change your operating system. Let me tell you a little story of how I got into Vagrant. So Buzz, and my team knows, Buzz is this massive application. It has over 100 gems in just the gem file alone. So it's got a ton of dependencies. When we upgraded to Lion, all of them broke. Pretty much everything that Buzz ran on broke. I had to reinstall. I spent 2 weeks getting Oracle reinstalled, SQLite reinstalled, all my gems reinstalled, just to find out at the very end I had one gem left. It wasn't supported on Mac anymore. It didn't work with Lion, period. So I had to switch everything over to Linux. You'll never have to do that again once you switch over to Vagrant. So the third thing, share your success. This part's really good for teams, and it's part of why it's been very successful on our team, the data and search tools team. The Vagrant VM is a file. It's a virtual machine. It can be saved and loaded from a .box file. So you can easily send it to someone. It has everything pre-installed with all of the dependencies, and you can set up a new team member. So let's say, okay, so for example, our team has a lot of different projects and a lot of different team members. We often switch from one project to the next within every couple of weeks. Liz recently switched over to a project that Shree had worked on, but Shree had done built a Vagrant for it. So instead of having to spend a day or two getting all of the dependencies installed for this new project, all she did was just walk over to Shree's desk with a thumb drive, grab this box file from him, and she had it up and running in under 10 minutes. So again, why use Vagrant? It's easy to set up. It really takes about 20 minutes to set up your first box and about 10 minutes for every other one. You can standardize your environment. You're running your same code in production that you're running locally, but you get to use your preferred development machine, whether it's Windows or Mac or Debian or whatever. You can use the tools you're comfortable with, but still run your code in the environment that it's suited for. And share your success. Once your code is up and running, or when you're trying to get someone else's code up and running, it's very easy to just duplicate the development environment. How do I use Vagrant? So it's pretty straightforward. I'm going to walk you through on the slides. I'm going to go pretty much in depth to everything you need to know because it's that easy. First of all, you install Oracle VirtualBox. There's a link at the end of the slide. Go grab it, install it, you're done. Install Vagrant. Same thing, link at the end of the slide, grab it, install it, you're done. Now, then, go to our wiki, and I'll have all the instructions for this. Download the Vagrant box for development. In the future, we want to have a different box set up for each application that we have. For now, we only have one, but that box, the one I uploaded, has a ton of dependencies already pre-installed. It has
ST package installed. It has Oracle Instant Client installed. It has all the gems that Buzz or WebYP would need. It has SQLite installed, which if you've ever tried to install in CentOS, is pretty hard. So it has a lot already pre-installed for you. Then you just run this command in your Vagrant space. You just box adds this box. Then in it creates this Vagrant file configuration file. Then you edit your Vagrant file. I'm going to go into depth for this. You don't necessarily need to get it right away, but I'll just go over what the configuration of the Vagrant file entails. So first of all, you're going to, this is a basic Vagrant file. Now it generates a whole lot with a bunch of commented out code, so I'm just going to show you what you need to work on. You just need to set up the name of the box with whatever you added in this last slide. This add my box, the same name there. And then you forward your ports. It is a VM within your machine, so it doesn't natively have access to external ports. So any ports that you want to install, or use, then you have to forward. I forward the Rails port by default. And then it's shared folder. You have to set up the shared folders. It does. You have to explicitly set which folders it will have access to in order to run. You probably don't want it to have access to your entire Mac drive, but you could do that if you wanted to. And then you just run Vagrant up and Vagrant SSH. And up will boot up your environment, and SSH will SSH you into it. And boom, you're in Vagrant. Okay, so summarize. For a wall of text. What Vagrant is? Vagrant is a tool that manages Oracle VirtualBox, which in turn is a tool that runs an emulation environment within your within your computer. You can run whatever operating system you want. I recommend using CentOS since that's what we have on our production service. Vagrant is easy to set up. I cannot stress this enough. This is the easiest thing I've ever had to set up of any of these magic tools. This one really does take under 20 minutes to get set up. It uses a shared disk space, so you can use all your normal development tools. Some of you use the SSVMs as development machines. This is a much better alternative because you don't need to have network access to use it, and you can use your normal tools. You can use your normal editor, and it doesn't have to have any knowledge of Vagrant. Vagrant is great for teams because Vagrant allows you to easily share a pre-built environment. Once you have your development machine set up, you never have to do it again. If your computer goes in a fire, or if you die and somebody else has to pick up your box, it's already set up. And Vagrant allows you to run your production environment locally. I've already gone over this, but it's really a great thing about it, and it makes it's very easy to do. This is the easiest way to achieve this goal. Yes. Any questions? Yes.
So that configuration for like what folders it has access to?
Yes.
What do you recommend using for that?
I recommend, okay, so if you have like a workspace folder, I recommend just giving it access to whatever applications you're currently running. But you can really just give it access to as much as you want. It's just, it is a VM, so the less access that you give it and the less effort that you put on it, the faster your machine will run in general.
Hey, I didn't see anything. I did arrive a few minutes late. I didn't see anything explaining how the guest operating system has to be set up initially.
Okay, so that is, it's Oracle VirtualBox is a free software that Oracle manages that runs the emulation, and then the here.
What I'm getting at is that
this file. This line here is the line that that installs and boots up and installs your guest operating system. The operating system is packaged as part of the .box file.
what I'm asking is under what user, with what permissions, what folder structure, how did you get the initial packages installed into that box? Was that all done manually?
So a lot of that is done. It's manually done, but it's already been done for you. So when you're in Vagrant, I'll just show you here. When you're in Vagrant,
the default user called Vagrant, and the password is Vagrant.
Yeah, you're a pseudo user called Vagrant, and your password is Vagrant. So it's very, well, it's not at all secure, but it's a virtual machine, so you got to be on your box to use it. Yeah.
I mean, Vagrant is supposed to only be used for developing. It's not really. You're not supposed to like deploy Vagrant boxes to your server.
Yeah. You should not use Vagrant to deploy a Debian box to our server.
Folder structure. Now, what about package management and things like that? Do you script all that away?
So that's all manually done as well. Like we have.
It supports Chef and Puppet.
So
yeah,
it supports Chef and Puppet, which is one of the big selling points. I don't use Chef or Puppet, so I won't be able to talk to that. But it does support just a normal Unix file structure, operating system structure. So it runs, since it's CentOS, it's pretty much the same as our SSVMs, except that it doesn't have all the next gen user stuff. Good question.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with VirtualBox, but not with Vagrant. When you do Vagrant up or whatever, how long does it take is it booting the virtual machine at that point, and how long does that take?
Yes, it takes about 3 to 5 minutes to boot.
Okay.
Depends on your
in a
guest.
headless state, so it doesn't have any GUI.
Right.
But you can open up VirtualBox and manage your Vagrant boxes with Oracle VirtualBox.
I guess I'm trying to understand better the value that the Vagrant adds. It's sort of a canned. I mean, you could easily go in and create your own VirtualBox instance, but I guess this is is it like sort of canned or prepackaged?
It's a little bit of the prepackaged. Mostly, it's just it's a command line tool for easily modifying Oracle VirtualBox. So yes, part of my discussion is really more exploiting the virtues of using Oracle VirtualBox, but in my opinion, Vagrant is the easiest way to manage VirtualBox.
So this is really what they should have done with VirtualBox instead.
Yeah, they should have given you a command line tool that lets you do it. Yeah.
There is one, VBox Manage, but it just they're verbose to use it.
But I mean, one thing that Vagrant does add is like you can create new boxes off your currently running Vagrant. Like you just say like rebox it, and it'll create a new box file for you to so let's say you did like Chris did for us is he installed MySQL, SQLite, Oracle, and all those, and he just did like a one-line command saying rebox it, and then
takes a snapshot.
it just takes a snapshot
and
then
that frozen. It's like freezing out, and you bring it up and there.
right, and that's what you can like pass around to people.
That eases maintenance, I'm sure. Yeah. Can you build a virtual box that's beefier than the dev machine on which you build it?
No. Additional hardware in the VirtualBox.
It's emulated.
You can manage that though. That's one of the things that
I feel like the TARDIS.
Here.
Sonic screwdriver.
Some additional. So there's some additional points to talk to. You can increase the memory buffer. Like the default memory buffer is about 300 megs. For Buzz, that was paltry. Buzz runs about 300 megs. And if I want to have the test environment up and running, I use Spork, so I have the test environment running at all times. It's a duplicate environment. That's 700 megs right there. I'm way over its buffer. So I have to run Buzz at about a gig. You probably don't want to run a gig unless your application is as large as Buzz, because one of the few downsides is it does use up resources because it's a VM. And so you probably won't see much of an issue on the 4 gig max that we have. But if you use a massive, like my preferred environment is I use Chrome with a bajillion tabs open, RubyMine, which is a huge memory hog, and a gigabyte of Oracle VirtualBox. And so I definitely see some slowdown.
Is the box file just the config, or is it actually the image?
The box file is the image. The Vagrant file is the config.
Oh, the Vagrant file.
Yes, and they are separate. You don't necessarily get the Vagrant file with it when you get the box file.
And make sure you have if you're going to use this, play with this at home, make sure you have some disk space available. Because box files are pretty large.
The box files are, they're about a gig and a half.
For CentOS installed, which is
CentOS,
pretty tiny.
Which is pretty tiny, yeah. for GUI-less CentOS. Yeah. I'll show you. There's another. If you want to play with this at home, this site here has about 20 or 30 different Linux environments available for you to download and install and play with. And you can have multiple VMs. So you can have them multiple ones up at the same time, and you can spin up some, spin down some. So if you want to test your code and see how it runs on Debian and see how it runs on Ubuntu and check all that, it's pretty easy to manage that separately.
A couple more questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
One is if anyone in the audience has any experience using Chef or Puppet with Vagrant.
I can show you how it's using Chef. So.
All right, this is a IRC channel thing. So if you've got a URL or something, or if you can hop in IRC pound tech talk, you can give it to him, or we can just go offline.
Yeah, I have it on my machine itself, so I can demo whoever it is. For them to talk to me after.
Yeah, Vagrant is very popular for Chef and Puppet. I'm sorry, I can't speak to it, but it does fully support any provisioning that Chef and Puppet does. So you can use Vagrant to test your Chef and Puppet scripts. However, I don't see that. Okay, so for you, those of you who are not familiar with Chef and Puppet, basically it's a way to provision a computer very quickly with all of the dependencies it needs. So you can create a script that would install, very similar to our T-package management system, would install a lot of the dependencies. I don't see a value for that in a development purpose with Vagrant because it's easier to just share the physical .box file and have the dependencies pre-installed rather than have a script that provisions it and then have someone set up their own box.
Does Vagrant support any other backends other than VirtualBox?
No, Vagrant requires VirtualBox, but VirtualBox is on pretty much every platform imaginable, except maybe iOS.
Is there a way you can put up the slide with all the links on it again?
Oh, sure. That's at the end, and I'll upload this to the wiki page as well. So the couple of the links that are important. My name is Chris Lemke. I'm happy to help you. You email me with any questions or comments, or if you need any help setting it up, I'll be happy to help. This is our wiki page. Ugly, but it has a lot of text and a lot of useful stuff. And it goes a little bit more into detail about some of the commands that you use to manage the VirtualBox and packaging it and stuff. These are the download links, and then as I said, this is the collection of other boxes if you guys want to play with it for purposes other than developing CentOS applications. Oh, and one last thing that I wanted to mention, if no more questions, but T-package, it seems really great with T-package. And that's one of as I was speaking before about standardizing your production environment, that it's really I found it really valuable to be able to test your T-package installations if you're creating a new one. You can test them and install them in your local box instead of dealing with the SSVM. But also it's really valuable to develop using the same version of whatever dependency that the T-package is running. You know, you're not sudo installing or port installing one version and then running the T-package version, which is probably 6 months out of date or something, on your production box. It allows you to run the same code in the same environment, completely identical to your production box as you are local.
This is probably not possible, but I'll ask anyway. Is there any way to get an SSVM, turn an SSVM into a VirtualBox image? Like, is there some server or conversion? Or
that one, my answer is I don't know how, but probably yes.
Right.
Because you just would need to take a physical copy of all the data in an SSVM.
Right.
So probably app support would be the ones to answer that question. Any other questions?
Maybe I should have invited them to this.
All right. Thank you very much. That's the Vagrant logo. Thank you guys. Thank you.